Coming up on NABJ NHJ News, it's our first virtual convention. We'll take a look at the decision-making process of this historic conference.
Plus, we dig into how the virtual conference is impacting student projects. NABJ NAHJ News starts. Welcome to the NABJ NAHJ News. I'm Tyreek Wayne.
And I'm Kimberly Cruz. Thank you so much for joining us. The 2020 NABJ NHJ convention kicked off with a bang. There were warm welcomes from both presidents of organizations. Dorothy Tucker and Hugo Balta greeted participants to their first ever virtual convention in an opening ceremony that was sponsored by Disney.
Just 4 years ago, NABJ partnered with NAHJ in Washington, D.C. and planned to meet there again this year. But then the coronavirus pandemic took over. President Tucker says the speed of the coronavirus spread forced a change of plans.
When there were stories about the coronavirus and stories about people getting sick in the spread, we actually began to have conversations then about the possibility of would we end up with a virtual convention.
The biggest hurdle, getting NABJ's money back from the convention hotel in Washington, D.C.
Because we had signed a contract with a major hotel in D.C. to have an in-person convention. So we could not publicly announce that we were canceling the convention. We had to continue down two roads and publicly kind of leave the question open about what we were going to do. But privately, we were negotiating an out with the hotel so that we could have a virtual, and primarily so that we would not be liable for $1.4 million.
NAHJ President Hugo Balta gives kudos to the NABJ NAHJ staff.
We're treading new ground here, NABJ, NAHJ. It's something we decided to do really late in the game. Usually it takes about a year to produce a national conference, even more so when you talk about a joint conference like the one we're hosting right now. And then, of course, because of COVID-19, we needed to cancel the in-person conference. And literally, our volunteers, our programming directors had to invent something new in a fraction of that time.
Amir Vera is the president of the Atlanta Association of Black Journalists.
Kind of surprised. I knew things were getting canceled because of coronavirus, obviously. I wasn't too sure how NABJ was going to handle it. I'm glad they're being, innovative and at least trying to have a convention. So I thought it was pretty cool.
And Kalan Hooks saved some money. The virtual convention saves him the expense of travel from his Arkansas campus to D.C.
I actually thought it was actually going to be a good thing that things went virtual, considering the fact that we're in a whole pandemic. At the end of the day, safety first.
President Tucker agrees. And while this format is the first, it may not be the last time NABJ meets virtually.
Even in Houston, I could see us, if everything works out and if this world is where it needs to be in terms of the coronavirus, if we are in person, I wouldn't be surprised that we also offer part of our convention virtually so that, again, we can attract those people who perhaps cannot physically be there.
The convention draws in thousands of dollars in revenue for NABJ each year, but with the move to a virtual convention, the state of NABJ's finances was in question. Akela Garner says there may be good news on the horizon.
The last time NABJ and NAHJ had a joint convention, the revenue pulled NABJ out of a $600,000 deficit. When COVID-19 put this year's convention in jeopardy, the association had to strategize to protect their primary source of income.
We had no intentions of canceling the convention. Why would you cancel the convention when you can use technology that everybody uses anyway for things like that?
And the decision to go virtual paid off. Unlike many organizations experiencing losses during the pandemic, NABJ projects a surplus of 30% more than they expected.
The bottom line is that we're going to be just fine. In fact, I think our members will be pleasantly surprised.
But getting to this point required critical decision-making.
We had to have some intense and occasionally heart-to-heart conversations with hotels and so forth.
The board had to renegotiate more than $1 million in contracts to avoid paying a penalty.
I really don't want to go through that again. It was very, 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 very unpleasant.
With the money saved by going virtual, NABJ dropped convention rates to some of the lowest in recent memory. And with donations from sponsors and supporters, NABJ helped more than 130 members through their COVID-19 relief fund.
Others, we paid for the convention because now more than ever before, they need to be there. You know, they need to be there to be able to find a job.
To those who doubted NABJ would recover, the treasurer says,
"We're going to prove you wrong, and we're still here, and we will be here."
NABJ is already talking with hotels in Houston about a contingency plan for holding a virtual convention in case we cannot meet in person in 2021. Akayla Gardner, NABJ, NAHJ News.
Planning for student projects proved to be a feat, but here we are. This fellowship allows for students like us to experience what it's like in a real-life newsroom. This year, just like the conference, we had to go virtual, but that did not stop us. Dr. Sheila Brooks, the founder of Student Projects, said going virtual is a great thing and has this advice for our students.
The best advice that I can give all of you is to be vigilant in your work, to be diligent in your work, and to learn as much as you can because we are digital. It's a whole new world out there. And those new opportunities in the newsrooms, those jobs are going to be in more demand than ever. And if you get the skills that you need now, and particularly in this experience, then I know that it's going to be the best experience that you could ever have.
This year's Combined Student Projects has over 30 participants, mentors, and students from both NABJ and NHJ.
With college classes set to start in just a few weeks, many students are going to stay closer to home to protect themselves from the coronavirus.
NAHJ's Eddie Blanco tells us about the pressure students are feeling when deciding which college to attend in the middle of this global pandemic.
As the coronavirus spreads rapidly across the country, students are thinking twice about which college option is best for them.
A lot of students and parents and families are nervous. They're scared. They don't know what to expect.
Online publication Finch Rating reports that the pandemic could cause a 5 to 20% drop in student enrollment this fall.
So we've seen a slight decrease. And when I say slight, I mean well less than 1,000. I'll just say maybe like 50 to 100. We haven't seen a large decrease in students enrolling and wishing to attend Delaware State.
Some incoming students, like David Urbina from North Carolina, wasn't too sure about going to school far from home.
If it wasn't for the scholarship, no. I was originally going to a university near here, but it was really, really expensive.
While Urbina, who has a full-ride scholarship to Delaware State, doesn't have to worry about the financial stress of paying for school, some students, like Shaylin Hall, are opting to enroll into a community college to save money.
I don't have the money to pay for university at the moment, and neither does my parents.
That's the reality that many college students are facing in the midst of a pandemic that some have compared to the 2007 economic recession. According to the U.S. Census, community colleges saw a 33% increase in student enrollment 13 years ago.
Definitely that on steroids. Historically, community colleges have been a place for students to turn to during difficult times, whether they're economic or, in this situation that we're in.
Both of these schools are following the lead of many universities across the country. Some are choosing to go online while others are doing a hybrid schedule. I'm Eddie Blanco for NABJ, NAHJ News.
The coronavirus pandemic also affecting the most seasoned journalists to students looking for internships. Like other positions in the news organizations across the country, internships were put on hold. According to a survey conducted by NABJ, 52% of its members have been affected by the virus.
But don't worry, the career fair is hosting more than 100 companies and 160 recruiters. NABJ NHJ reporter Carlin Green has more on how you can land the job of your dreams online.
The NABJ conference is one of the biggest recruiting fairs in the entire nation. For decades, hopeful job seekers flocked to the convention to snag their dream jobs. However, the pandemic has taken away the in-person experience. But still, the show must go on, for good reason. Thousands of people could be a click away from their next gig. Three-time Emmy Award-winning news anchor Adrienne Broaddus thanks NABJ for her career. At the NABJ conference in 2013, she was recruited by the NBC News director in Atlanta and was offered a job on the spot. And that was only the beginning.
I was delighted. Like, who offers someone a job on the spot? And I remember her saying at the time, is it okay if I hold on to your resume and share it with other news directors in our company?
Then, just months later, she got a call.
I interviewed on the phone, believe it or not. I accepted the job, and I've been here at CARE ever since. That was 7 years ago this week.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, I love where I work. I'm sad to leave. I only have 2 more weeks here. But once again, my next opportunity, perhaps the biggest in my career, is all because of NABJ, because of a relationship that started during an NABJ conference in 2017.
More than 80 companies are recruiting new talent this year. Kamara Daughtry is recruiting for the Sinclair Broadcast Group, hoping to find digital and social media talent. And part of her role involves sharing tips for those about to take on their virtual interview.
The main thing that you need to always have ready are your writing samples, your reel samples. You need to have all of that together in a draft email ready to send out. Make sure that you test run your camera, that you test run your Wi-Fi connection.
And for more information about what to expect during the career fair and convention, watch this tutorial on the NABJ headquarters YouTube channel to learn more. Carlin Green, NABJ NAHJ News.
Coming up next, the NABJ elections. Who are the candidates vying for office and why they say they deserve your vote?
And presidential candidate Joe Biden stops by the convention for a chat with some of the organization's best journalists. Don't go anywhere. You're watching the NABJ NHJ News. Stay with us.
This season, 60 Minutes covered some of the most important stories of a generation about race.
These cops need to know the difference between serving and protecting and not serving and killing.
Immigration.
I could still see my husband there, struggling, along with my daughter.
Social justice.
A white mob with incendiary rage burned Greenwood to ash.
How many people were arrested, tried for what happened in Greenwood? No one.
And introduced you to some of the world's most interesting entertainers.
My musical career has served as a vehicle to work for children. Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Go behind the scenes and hear from the 60 Minutes team themselves about how they make their stories tick.
It's time for NABJ members to start in a process that brings new faces and new ideas to the forefront. This year, NABJ has 2 contested races for treasurer academic representative. Treasurer candidate Walter Smith believes
our members need to know where their money is going, why it's being spent the way it's being spent, and it means making sure that we're protecting our prosperity. We are in the black, we need to stay in the black, and we need to make sure that we're smart about our money, especially coming out of this COVID-19 pandemic.
His opponent, Ernest Owens, says
we need to look at our current spending habits and we need to really reprioritize our budget to make sure that we are saving money, but also being as accommodating and supportive to our various committees, task forces, organizations that call on us.
It's a 3-way contest for academic representative. Russell Motley says,
I want to raise the visibility of this position, raise the visibility of the academic members to make sure that NABJ knows that we're valuable and we have value to the organization.
Jared Henderson states,
I feel like the academic membership and the representative represents
not only our educators in terms of best practices, finding opportunities for them to publish their research and to find opportunities to work with students, but also to make sure that students have an opportunity to really fully realize the potential of their academic education.
And Milbert Brown says,
so really what I'm trying to do is really support educators. I want to strengthen their teaching skills, their research, and also at the same time mentor students.
All 5 candidates campaigning virtually.
Virtual campaigning. And so Zoom has been my best friend, as well as sending emails.
I've been just making a lot of phone calls, a lot of Zoom interviews, a lot of dropping into meetings.
Go to the website and look at that. And it has all my information, my platform.
I'm trying to make phone calls, man, talk to people, let them know what the platform is.
So I've really had to rely heavily on social media to meet people who are not necessarily digitally inclined.
With less than 90 days until the November election, Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden made an appearance at the convention where he was pressed by reporters from NABJ and NAHJ about his race for the White House. Here's a snippet from that interview.
Have you taken a cognitive test?
No, I haven't taken a test. Why the hell would I take a test? Come on, man.
What do you say to President Trump, who brags about his test and makes your mental state an issue for voters?
Well, if he can't figure out the difference between an elephant and a lion, I don't know what the hell he's talking about. But I mean, I'm so forward looking to have an opportunity to sit with the president or stand with the president in debates.
The Democratic National Committee announced Wednesday that Joe Biden will no longer travel to Milwaukee to accept the presidential nomination in person due to the coronavirus. Instead, he will accept it in his home state of Delaware. That full interview will be available online on the convention website.
Still to come, we now learn how sports leagues are adapting to COVID-19 during this pandemic.
Also, words of encouragement from Triple Threat Jennifer Lewis. Stay with us. You're watching the NABJ NHJ News.
There's a lot more to the technology that Visa is working on than the payments. Looking at wearables, virtual reality, different cars. When I joined Visa, I had this expectation of what it would be like to work in a big company, but in reality, it feels like a startup within the company. It's very exciting.
The Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, working to build a more healthy, just, and inclusive future for everyone at czi.org.
By now, the NBA season would be over.
But due to COVID-19, the league created a 22-game bubble, all competing in Orlando. Major League Baseball is also giving it a go with the 60-game format that doesn't include fans at the games. And also, Boston Red Sox beat reporter Julian McWilliams says that this year is unlike any other.
It's certainly a lot different right now. I think, even when you walk into the stadium, they're taking your temperature. As media members, we're only allowed to go to the press box.
While the NBA restart has gone smooth so far, baseball has had to postpone its 6-game series due to the virus. The plan is to finish the shortened season as long as there is not another outbreak.
This season, 60 Minutes covered some of the most important stories of a generation about race.
These cops need to know the difference between serving and protecting and not serving and killing.
Immigration.
I could still see my husband there, struggling, along with my daughter.
Social justice.
A white mob with incendiary rage burned Greenwood to ash.
How many people were arrested, tried for what happened in Greenwood? No one.
And introduced you to some of the world's most interesting entertainers.
My musical career has served as a vehicle to work for children. Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Go behind the scenes and hear from the 60 Minutes team themselves about how they make their stories tick.
The national
National Association of Black Journalists. How y'all doing? Listen, congratulations on your 2020 convention. It is an honor to speak to you, an opportunity to thank you. Thank you for informing us. Thank you for the questions that others won't ask. Thank you for being on the front line. Yes, the front line, because I know it's not easy. It's a battle every day, but it's our battle, and we ain't worried about it. I know that you are fighting for equality and justice, and I know it's not easy. So as Auntie Jennifer, I'm telling you to take care of yourselves. Be gentle on yourselves. Write in your journals. Journalists, take care of yourselves, okay? Look at me. I'm a pretty ain't I? Yes, watch me sing you a song. Remember this one? All right, there's still a little bipolar left, but please don't report that.
That was Jennifer Lewis giving us some words of encouragement to journalists during this time of COVID-19. She stopped by the convention to share her thoughts on Black journalists. Wow, do I feel honored to be a journalist right now? I feel like Mama was speaking to me.
I know that's right. Auntie Jen right there. She did that thing.
That's all for us tonight. For Tyreek Wynn and the rest of our news team, I'm Kimberly Cruz. Thanks for watching and take care.